My name is Rob Schwartz. I'm the author of 3 books, the premise of which is that we plan our lives, including our biggest challenges, before we're born, before we actually come into body. The names of the books will be on the website in the show description. What I did in the books is that I went through pretty much every major challenge we face here in the Earth School, and in case study format, I explained why somebody actually planned that very difficult experience before they were born. I'm also a hypnotist. I specialize in something called a between-life soul regression, which is a way in which you can speak directly with what is called your council of elders and find out what you planned, why, how you're doing, and how you can do better. So there are 3 major spiritual experiences I've had over the last 20 or so years that have really informed the work that I do. And I want to share all 3 of these with you. The first one took place back in 2003. Now, it's important for me to mention here, at that time, I was not doing the work that I'm doing now. I was actually in the corporate world, believe it or not, doing corporate marketing and communications as a self-employed consultant. I did not like that work at all. It was deeply unfulfilling. And perhaps more to the point, I had this nagging sense that I had come to Earth to do something else, something quite specific that I wasn't doing, but I didn't know what it was, and I didn't even know how to figure out what it was. And then in mid-2003, you could say basically the universe staged an intervention. And a number of profoundly impactful things happened all within a short time of each other, one of which is the experience that I'm going to describe now. So I was home alone in my apartment, which was in Chicago, Illinois, actually Evanston, where I lived at the time. It was the middle of a weekday afternoon. I was just having an average work day, working on some marketing things for some clients. And, it was a nice sunny day, and I thought, why am I inside? So I took a break and went for a walk. So I'm walking down the sidewalk in Evanston, Illinois, middle of a weekday afternoon. And all of a sudden, every time I looked at another person, this feeling of pure, overwhelming, divine, unconditional love for that person washed over me. Now, I call this love divine. I call it pure. I call it powerful. I could call it transcendent. Those are the words that get closest in the English language, but there really are no words that even begin to touch the strength, the power, the purity, the sweetness of this love. It was not a human love. It was something beyond this world. And it was not personal because it couldn't be. I didn't know any of the people that I was seeing or feeling this love for. I remember this experience very clearly because the first person I saw after it started was a cab driver who was just sitting behind the wheel of his cab waiting for a customer to come along. And I looked at this man, who of course was a total stranger to me, and just felt the most pure, sweet, powerful, divine, unconditional love for him. And then I looked up and I saw a man's barber shop on the corner. I looked through the window and I saw the barber cutting a customer's hair. Again, 2 total strangers. But as I looked at them, there again was this just pure, overwhelming, unconditional love for both of these people. And then I turned around and I saw a young woman, a mother, pushing an infant in a stroller down the sidewalk. And as I looked at her and the baby, again, there was this pure, overwhelming, unconditional love for both of them. Everywhere I looked, every time I saw another person, this feeling washed over me. Now, I had never heard of anything like this or read about anything like this, but I understood intuitively what was happening. It was as though my soul was saying to me, this love is who you really are. This is your true nature. I got that message loud and clear. What I didn't know at the time, and what only became clear a couple of years later, was why this was happening. Now, by a couple of years later, I had looked at a number of people's pre-birth plans for my first book, Your Soul's Plan. And what I found in every case, no exceptions, the pre-birth plan was always based on complete unconditional love for every person involved. This was true even when great challenges were being planned. This was true even when what we would call tragedies were being planned. This was true even when quote unquote negative roles were being planned for other people. It really didn't matter what was being planned. Underlying all of it, the intention, the motivation, was unconditional love for every single person involved. When I saw this in my study of pre-birth plans, then I understood why I had been gifted with that experience of unconditional love for all people a couple of years later. The universe wanted me to know that when I found in my research that all pre-birth plans are based on unconditional love for everybody involved, that what I was finding was true. And so that experience walking down the street that day, that was given to me so that I could be absolutely certain that this finding, that all pre-birth plans are based on unconditional love for everybody, that this is true, and present it to the world with complete confidence and complete certainty. In other words, without that experience, I would always wonder, is what I'm finding in my research really true? How do I actually know if I haven't experienced it in some way directly? Well, I know because I did experience it directly. And this is why I can say to you with total confidence and total certainty, the plans that we create for our incarnations before we're born, they are based in all aspects for everybody involved on complete unconditional love. I know that because I experienced them. The second experience I want to share with you is along the same lines. Just a couple of years ago, I had a profound, you could call it a between the worlds experience. About a quarter of my consciousness stayed in body, and about three-quarters went back to the other side. So I still knew who I am, where I am, what I'm doing, and so forth. But for the most part, I was back on the other side. When I got there, the first thing that happened is that many, many relatives showed up. And it surprised me because a lot of them were aunts and uncles who had died decades ago, who I knew only as a child and never really knew very well or had that much of a relationship with. But they all showed up to greet me, and they greeted me with complete warmth and love. And then my father, who was back on the other side, came in. My maternal grandparents showed up, and a number of other family members. And everyone greeted me with just complete unconditional love and joy and happiness. They were thrilled to see me, and I was thrilled and surprised to see them. Then it shifted into this period of offering thanks. And all the beings who were there to greet me, and there were many beings there. I could only see a few, but there were many more whose presence I could sense. They formed a line, and they basically filed in front of me one at a time. And there was an exchange of thanks, primarily me thanking whoever was in front of me at the moment for whatever role they had played in my life so far. So thanking my uncle for having been my uncle, thanking my aunt for having been my aunt. I thank my father for having played the role of my father, grandparents, and so forth. Then it shifted into this period of forgiveness. Again, there was a long line of many different people filing in front of me one by one at a time. And either I was offering forgiveness to someone who I felt had wronged me, or more often, I was asking for forgiveness from somebody who I believed I had not treated with complete love and respect. One person who showed up there was my first wife. I was married briefly for just a couple of years, decades ago when I was in my 30s, and the marriage never really worked very well. And when my ex-wife showed up in front of me, I was quite surprised because I know that she's still here in a body on planet Earth. So this was her soul, her higher self. And I apologized for not having been a better partner. And my apology was accepted and warmly and gratefully received. And so this period of giving forgiveness or asking for forgiveness, it went on for quite a long time. Then we come to the part that I most want you to know about. My mother's soul appeared before me. Now, my mother is still here in a body. She was very, very emotionally and occasionally physically abusive to me throughout my childhood. She has significant mental health issues. And because of that, our relationship in this lifetime has, of course, certain limitations around it. And I don't think it will ever be particularly close. It really just can't be. But when her soul appeared in front of me, there was nothing but love between us. And it was the most profound, strong, pure, divine, transcendent love imaginable, just beyond really human conception. And I just kept saying to her soul over and over again, I love you, I love you, I love you. And not only was I saying it, I felt it in the heart chakra of my physical body. I felt it intensely in a way that I have never felt it at any other point in this lifetime. So I just kept saying to her soul, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I didn't hear words in response, but I could feel the love coming back. It was completely mutual. The reason I so want to share that experience with all of you is by way of saying something that I already knew intellectually through my research into pre-birth planning, but this was an experience of it. And that is, no matter how difficult or challenging your relationship with a particular person may be in this incarnation, on the other side, there is nothing but love between the two of you. That is what I experienced with my mother. And if that is the nature of our relationship after what's happened in this lifetime, then I know that that is the nature of all relationships between all beings. The roles that we script for each other are sometimes very, very challenging for the upcoming incarnation. And there are very good reasons for doing that, which I explore in detail in my 3 books. But back on the other side, it's nothing but love with every single person, every single being. The other experience that I want to share with you was really a non-dual experience. If you haven't heard that term before, just Google non-duality. Find a lot of information about it. This happened a couple of years ago. I was in Florida for the winter. I was sitting in a lawn chair, the balcony of this house where I was staying, and just watching the sunrise. It was 8:30 on a Thursday morning. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. So I'm just sitting there enjoying a beautiful sunrise. And all of a sudden, there was this absolutely massive, intense rush of energy that came from above me, entered through my crown chakra, filled the physical body, filled all the subtle bodies, the energetic bodies around the physical body. I knew the moment this started that this was the energy of my soul, my higher self. I don't know how I knew that, but I knew. This energy rushed into me and filled me and all the field around me. And I would describe this energy, and again, here words are going to fail. I would describe it as deeply, deeply still and deeply, deeply powerful. Again, those words don't even begin to touch what it was really like. This was a stillness that was so profound, it's not of this world. And it was a power so strong, again, not of this world. Stillness and power are the words that get closest to it, but I really can't get close to it in words. This experience went on for several hours. And as it was happening, I remember I spontaneously thought to myself with considerable surprise, oh, that's what I really am. And isn't the wording of that thought interesting? I didn't think to myself, oh, that's who I really am. I thought to myself, oh, that's what I really am. This deep, deep stillness and this deep, deep power. As the experience continued, you could say that I was caused to know. I was caused to know by a power greater than my own personality in this lifetime. 2 truths. The first is I was given the knowing all is well always, no matter how much it may seem not to be. I knew with absolute certainty that that was true. And the second knowing that was given to me was that I'm inviolable. Nothing can hurt me. No one can hurt me. I'm just beyond harm. I'm beyond being hurt. And I knew with absolute certainty that that is true. And sort of an interesting side note on this, that morning at 11:30, and again, I don't know why I remember these times, but my wife and I were teaching an online course through the Shift Network. And when this happened, I realized, well, Spirit must want me to share this in the course, otherwise it wouldn't be happening now. So I shared the experience with these students in the Shift Network course. It was actually still continuing as the course module went on that day. And hopefully it served their awakening in some way as well. So these 3 experiences that I've just described, they've had a profound, profound impact on my life, not just what I do, but my understanding of who and what each one of us is, what the Earth School is all about, what the universe is all about. The first experience that I shared with you, the one of unconditional love for all people, as I was walking down the street, that, along with a couple of other things that happened at that time in 2003, got me to actually leave the corporate world. The combination of the experiences that I was having then caused me to say, okay, I'm going to leave this corporate world and I'm going to attempt to write a book about how we plan our lives, and in particular, our biggest challenges before we're born. I ended up moving from Illinois to Ashland, Oregon, where I had never been before and where I knew not a single person, simply because I felt guided to go there. And I know intuitively it was part of my pre-birth plan to write Your Soul's Plan in Ashland, Oregon. the energies there are just very supportive of doing that kind of work. The last experience, the third one that I just described to you, the non-dual experience, when it ended several hours later after it had begun, I immediately went online. I'd never studied non-duality before, but I knew enough about it to recognize that as a non-dual experience. So I went online immediately, Googled teachers of non-duality, signed up for the email newsletter of every non-duality teacher I could find, and that is my primary spiritual path now. So my wife, who is an empath and a channel, she and I teach primarily about pre-birth planning, and we offer different workshops and courses and so forth to give you insight into what you planned, why you made those plans, how you're doing in fulfilling your plans, and how you can better fulfill your pre-birth plans. We are often asked, what have you learned about pre-birth planning from your studies and these spiritual experiences that you've had? And one thing I want to share with you, there's a common misconception that pre-birth planning means everything is set in stone and that we're just sort of going through the motions of what has been predetermined. That is not at all the case. What I've found in my research for the books is that we have many, many sets of pre-birth plans. My wife channels a collective, a group consciousness that we affectionately call the beings of light, or BOL for short. And what they've explained to us is that they say it's as though every person has a stack of sheets of paper in front of you. And each sheet in your stack represents a complete set of pre-birth plans. The sheets vary according to vibration. The sheets at the top of the stack are the highest vibrational pre-birth plans. That's where most of the learning is done through love, peace, and joy, not so much through pain and suffering. The sheets at the bottom of the stack are the opposite. Those are the lowest vibrational pre-birth plans. That's where most of the learning is done through pain and suffering, not so much through love, peace, and joy. So obviously what you want and what everybody wants is to be on the highest sheet in your stack that you can get to. And the way that you do that is actually quite simple, not necessarily easy, but it's very simple. And that is, anytime you have to make a decision of any kind, big or small, ask yourself the following question. What would love with a capital L do now? Whatever the answer to that question is, do that. The more often you do that, the more consistently you do that, the more you will raise your vibration, the more you will move up in your personal stack of sheets of paper, and you'll get to a sheet, a set of pre-birth plans, where most of the learning is done through love, peace, and joy, not through pain and suffering. And that's where you want to be. That's what life can be like. And that's one of the understandings that has come to me through these spiritual experiences that I shared with you a few minutes ago. The other thing I'd like to share with you, we talk a lot in our work about ascension. And you probably know the planet and everybody on the planet is going through an ascension process, meaning ascending, literally moving up in vibration. We've already moved from the third dimension to the fourth, or what properly should be called fourth density. And we're on our way to the fifth dimension, or fifth density, which is a vibration of unconditional love and oneness, or unity consciousness. So we are essentially going home, but doing it while remaining in a physical body. And that's why this particular lifetime is so special and so unique. Ascension has been attempted by humanity twice before, and we failed. This time, it's my understanding that we are going to succeed. It's a foregone conclusion at this point. Ascension is happening because there's a lot of divine light from source flooding the planet. The light has the effect of bringing to the surface, bringing to conscious awareness, everything of a lower vibration. That is everything unlike itself. It's doing this as a process called purification. We need to purify our world and our own consciousness in order to ascend into fifth density. So what that means is that it's happening collectively to the entire human race, which is why you see more craziness than ever in the news. And it's also happening individually in each person's life, whether or not you're consciously aware of it. On an individual level, this means that your stuff, so to speak, is going to come up. It's coming up so that you can recognize it, thank it for whatever it's taught you, bless it, and release it to the universe. That's essentially how you move through the purification process. But if you don't know that ascension is happening, and if you don't know that purification is part of ascension, then you can't consciously choose to release the lower vibrational aspects of your consciousness. And that creates a lot of suffering and a lot of chaos and turmoil. So I mention this just to give a basic understanding of what is now happening in everybody's life, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. I would also like to add the way in which I've researched people's pre-birth plans. Two ways. One, by working with mediums and channels who in one way or another could find out what somebody planned before they were born. And two, through the between life soul regressions that I do as a hypnotist. When somebody does that kind of session, either privately or in a workshop, which we do online, and they talk to their council of elders, the wise, loving, and highly evolved beings who oversee their evolution, you can ask literally any question on any subject. And if it's for your highest good to know the answer, the council will provide you with an answer. So we ask about every major relationship, every major life challenge. We ask questions like, what gifts were you given to share with the world? What is your mission? What is your role on the other side? What do you do on the other side in between incarnations? We ask the council to provide you with a healing. We ask for an experience of your higher self's energy. We ask the council to give you an experience of God's unconditional love for you. So there's a lot that happens in a between lives regression. But bottom line, we can obtain a lot of detailed information about what somebody planned. And again, I know from the experiences I shared with you that all of those plans are based on complete unconditional love for every person involved. So it's been my pleasure and my honor to share my personal spiritual experiences with you. I hope that they are helpful. And if I can ever be helpful to you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out. That is my pre-birth mission in this lifetime, is to help people understand their pre-birth plans. If I can help you in any way to do that, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.